Kelly Kleinman here in beautiful Camarillo, California. Today we're going to talk to Mr. Rusty West. He is the chairman and president of MarketScan. He's got a lot to say. We've got a lot to learn. Let's get going. I want to bring up the work environment here. It's really terrific. What's your key to creating an environment that harvests and nurtures innovation?
So, experience, I think. I have a phrase that I use, which is wisdom is one of those things you gain immediately after you need it, right?
Yeah.
I've been in the space for 30 plus years, and I've made almost every mistake you can make, So learning from those and taking a lot of feedback from our team members, what do you like? When we took over this space, we literally gutted it and started from scratch. So we had a clean slate, and we were able to do some fun stuff and ask them, what do you like? What works? What doesn't work? So we implemented almost all of the feedback that we got from our teammates and came up with a space that works well and looks good at the same time.
Rusty, how does your team take a customer approach to new services and products that you guys develop?
So it depends on the target, right? Most of the customer approach is, okay, what is the customer looking for, and how do we help them? We've been supporting the car dealership facing industry for 30 years, so we have a pretty good handle on who we're going to be working with and what their personalities are, and as you can imagine, they're pretty vast, in the car business. Mm-hmm. And it's a completely different set of people we work with our MScan API product, which are mainly technologists. And so we have to kind of be a chameleon. We need to make sure that when we're talking to them, that we're trying to look at what their issues are from their eyes first. That way we know how to help them or how to fix their problem.
Well, for those who don't know MarketScan, what would a 30, let's say 60-second elevator pitch sound like?
We are a software company that specializes in the aggregation of data that can influence automobile payments, and we calculate more payments than every other technology in the industry combined.
Yeah. And who are your primary clients, customers?
So we have 3 verticals that we market. We market directly to car dealerships, which we've been doing. That's the longest part of our business. We market directly to technology companies with our latest product, which is our MScan API product. Mm-hmm. And we have products that are analytics products that we market to lending institutions and manufacturers to assist them in creating their offerings, mm-hmm. rebates, incentives offerings, rates, finance lease, balloon note offerings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we're about to get into MarketScan's product offerings, but before we do that, let's expand a little bit on the 2 main core components of the company, and that would be big data, and the other one would be calculation technology.
Sure. So the big data part, I think we kind of touched on. We track mm-hmm. 4 classes of data, which is the manufacturer class, and I'll rattle them off real quick. So
Sure.
Year, make, model, trim, description, cost, MSRP, shipping, gas guzzler, right? I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we say it a million times a day.
Sure.
We also track all the complex elements of the manufacturer class of data, which are all of the rebates and incentives down to a very, very granular level, even down to the VIN-specific level. Mm-hmm. From the lending institution side, we track every parameter, policy, and factor that can influence a lease, finance, or balloon note program for new or used cars from every lending institution in the country. Mm-hmm. And then the 3rd class is the municipality class. So we track every law, rule, regulation, calculation methodology, and tax percentage rate for every inch of the country. And the last class is the dealership class. So we track all the terms and conditions under which dealerships are willing to do business. Mm-hmm. And that's the big data side. And that's a monstrous database that changes every single day. We're in here on a Saturday, and it's the 1st of the month. And we've got a whole team of people here who are running our process to make sure that the programs that go into effect midnight tonight, our customers have access to. And then from the technology side of it, or calculation side of it, that's where the real magic is, right? And we have more products and lines of code, if you will, that are internal products that we utilize much, much more than external products that we sell, because we have to develop software to aggregate all this information. We develop tools to help our team members do their job in every department: accounting, human resources, obviously data. And then the biggest, or the most, I don't want to say most crucial piece for us, but the part that we sell is the calculation engine. And our calculation engine is really slick. I'd love to be able to, sit up here and say, yeah, I did a great job. I wrote it. I'm the man. The truth of the matter is I wrote the very first one. I think I did a pretty nice job. But the team of developers we've got now that have built the one that we have, it's amazing. Not so much that it generates different payments, because we both generate the same payments. The difference is they're able to generate tens of thousands of payments that are requested from our API partners in seconds. And that's why we're able to calculate, over 100 million payments a day, as opposed to, who knows how long it would take with the one that I wrote. So,
how does focus on those two sets of elements help set you apart from the competition? Because there's competition out there.
oh yeah.
And so if you could elaborate a little bit about that, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, so if we look at our core product now, which is our MScan API product, there's 4 different companies in the space outside of MarketScan that have a data offering, and there is an element to our MScan API product, the data offering. There's much different. There's 10 different levels of it, so you can get everything from super basic data all the way up to us doing all the heavy lifting to do the calculations. But the 4 different companies that are out there are AIS, Chrome, DealerTrack, and JTO. And AIS and DealerTrack are owned by Cox. All 4 of those companies have some commonalities, and the biggest commonality is that each one of them has about 100 people in a data entry department manually entering data. We don't do that, right? We automated all of this stuff. So there's 2 teams in India, there's 1 team in the Philippines, and there's 1 team in Santa Barbara. And that's the biggest difference with us. So having invested all of this time, energy, and resources and money into building tools to electronically aggregate this data is what truly sets us apart from a data offering. Our data is much, much more timely and much more accurate, much more robust than even the combined data sets of which you get from those 4 competitors, which are our competitors. And then if you go beyond the data offering, right, and you start looking into the calculation engine process, we're the only company in the industry that has an API for calculating all the payments that takes everything into consideration. Everybody else provides data, and the technology companies have to build the calculation engine themselves. And that's a daunting task that took us many, many, many years, to perfect. So
let's back up just a little teeny bit, because you were an early pioneer in big data. And I was just wondering if you had an aha moment when you realized, focus on big data is going to give me a clear market advantage.
Several aha moments. Literally the first one was when I was in high school. And it wasn't really big data back then. I mean, it was big data for back then, because you had a 720K fit on a floppy disk if you had the really cool floppy disk, right? So, and I got an iPhone with 128 gig or whatever on it. But when I wrote the very, very first version of this for my dad in high school, my dad was literally killing all the car dealers in Atlanta. He had an independent leasing company, and they were leasing 400 to 500 cars a month without any inventory. And they were buying cars from dealerships and leasing them to those dealerships' customers for a lot less money than the dealerships could lease them themselves. And they couldn't figure it out, right? Because they didn't know. They didn't know to look outside of the captive lending institution. They didn't know how to structure them. So that was the first part that got me kind of excited about this technology. And then the move to California, and we saw it really starting to play out. That was an aha moment. Before the time leading up to September 11th, September 11th changed the auto industry because leasing kind of stopped. But the time leading up to September 11th, we had everybody, and we were responsible for, I say responsible, our customers were responsible for 85, 90% of all leases written in the country. And the profits that they were making off of it, because they were using science to calculate it, it was amazing. And then when we decided to go through the process of electronically aggregating the data, that was the biggest aha moment for us, because our data set just, the size of our data grew immensely when we could ingest the kind of fringe case type data, and that's been pretty cool.
How did the product portfolio evolve from targeting the retail side of automotive to lenders and OEMs as well?
So we had a couple of lenders come to us very early. When we first moved to California, we literally exited Atlanta within a year, and we're only in California. So we had several lending institutions that had very aggressive programs that weren't the captive lender. It wasn't GM AC or Nissan Motor Acceptance Corp or whoever at the time. And two of them were Sanwa Bank and Wells Fargo. And they came to us, both of them, and said, hey, look, we either need to use your software or we got to figure out how to get our programs out of your software. And we guess you probably already figured out the latter, so we need to use it. And gosh, this goes back to 91, 92. The guy we worked with at Sanwa Bank is a guy named Steve Hamburg, who actually later came to work with us before he retired. And the other guy who was in charge of all of automotive lending for Wells Fargo was a guy named Dick Schliesman, and he's one of my best friends. And so when the lending institutions had the ability to play poker and see what everybody's cards were, it really changed the landscape. And so that kind of evolved into us building a product that wasn't our desking tool, our dealer-facing desking product that the lending institutions would use, but it's a product called M-Gage that uses the same technology, all the calculations and data and everything, but presents the data in a manner that really meets the needs of the lending institutions. And that product was built in a lending institution, CULIC, Credit Union Leasing Associates, which they do all the credit union leasing, and they're in San Diego. So we developed that product with their assistance. What is it you want? How can we help you? How can we make it better? And then once we built it and they started using it, then we started selling it to everybody. And a lot of the big lenders, Ally Financial, US Bank, are big customers of ours in that product. And we get to work very closely with them and kind of see their inner workings, which is very exciting for us.
Thank you, Rusty.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure meeting with you and having this conversation.
Thanks.
Great success in the future.
I appreciate it.